Hi, you're listening to the Leadership Advantage podcast with me, Dr. John Kenworthy. The Leadership Advantage ultimately boils down to how you motivate and get people to do things that matter. This isn't some magic pill or a silver bullet to instant success, but practical ways you can leverage neuroscience hacks to become a better leader today than you were yesterday. The Leadership Advantage. It's why some leaders thrive whilst others struggle. Hi there, this is John. I get asked a great deal about what makes a successful leader. People are wanting to be a better leader and improve their leadership skills. And ultimately, pretty well everyone wants to be successful. But just what is a successful leader? And it's a terrific question because success means so many different things to different people. For you, perhaps success could be a mansion with a stunning sea view on the beachfront. For others, it's being in charge of a large multinational, being the biggest boss they can be. For some, it's a loving family. However, these simply identify the measures by which we as an individual evaluate our own success. So I came up with a definition of what is leadership success that can apply to pretty well everything. And it's this: it's behaving in a congruent and righteous way that generates a sustainable, superior return on investment. Now, it's a very loaded statement, of course. So let's break it down. Behaving is all about your manifest words and actions. It's what you are doing and saying. In a congruent way, congruence is about being in accordance with your stated, known, but also your unstated beliefs and values. So you're behaving in a congruent, but also a righteous way, because your values might be considered by others to be immoral. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was acting in an upright, moral and virtuous way within the context of the environment. Thus, we're behaving in a congruent and righteous way that generates a sustainable, superior return on investment. So superior is better than. Return on investment is all about returning a greater benefit to the organisation or the people and yourself than the investment in time, money, effort, knowledge and so on. i.e., you've got a greater return on investment than most other leaders. Sustainable is that you are able to maintain it or keep it going. It's not a one-off moment, it's a daily occurrence that you are behaving in a congruent and righteous way that generates this sustainable, superior return on investment. So how do you know a leader is successful? Well, during the past 20 years, we've been researching leadership. We've assessed, observed and evaluated individual leaders, seeking agreement on whether there is a particular leader is or is not successful. And it's very difficult to do that. This evaluation considers the individual's own achievements, of course, and their own definition of success. The generally agreed definitions of success of the world and at large and of their peers. And it's not simply a case of more is better. One of the biggest issues with some of the psychometric tools that you might use, and why we created our GAPS program, is more is not always better. Too much food makes you fat. But for example, someone with exceedingly high interpersonal sensitivity is going to be very sensitive to the needs and wants of others and may choose to implement a policy that satisfies the people at the expense of good business. It reduces ROSI. Or someone with absolute clarity of goals and vision, but does not learn that the goal is actually going in the wrong direction. Or someone who's very outcome driven, very results oriented, could just themselves be heading for a stroke. Also, consider if you had a team member who was a junior manager with incredibly strong leadership skills and thus gets labelled this high potential or future leader, and they get put on the fast track and promoted and promoted and promoted, Well, if they don't gain the experience technically or, very importantly, the wisdom to discern, then they won't necessarily be successful as a senior manager or let alone a CEO. So can you be a successful leader with low scores in some of the competencies? Yes. Though it depends on what your definition of success is. See, I've met a few CEOs who, quite honestly, well, they shouldn't be in charge of getting themselves dressed in the morning, let alone a multi-million-dollar business and the lives of hundreds of staff. The key to real success as a leader when you have known weaknesses, and we all have them, is to let go of the ego or the pride that's holding you back, admit it and go find yourself someone to fill your gaps. Let's say you own a business that is doing well, but to get to the next level and expand or go public, as a SMB leader, you've succeeded. Or as a startup leader, you've done really well. But what you really need is a chess player character, a real strategist. But you're a cavalier, bit of a maverick, bit of a creative thinker. So what you probably need to do is go and find yourself a boss. Go and find yourself a CEO. And remember, whilst you focus on being increasingly successful, I trust that you've noticed I did not say good leader. Being successful and being good are not necessarily the same thing. In this fallen world, there are times when you could sacrifice good for success. But what do you need to change to be more successful in your leadership? Well, I've put together this series of podcasts that I've recorded over this past year, and it happened to fall into a rather nice little series on what is success and how do I become more successful. So this is an introduction to it, and this is what we're trying to achieve, that you can be successful, remembering that what I'm really looking for you to be able to do is to behave in a congruent and righteous way that generates a sustainable, superior return on investment. I'll see you in the first module. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Advantage podcast. You can learn more on how to motivate and get people to do things that matter over at my website at leadershipadvantage.com.